Before we begin the review for One Punch Man, I have to get this show a minor NSFW warning for blood and gore and partial nudity. No actual genitalia are showed, but close enough. The synopsis as it reads on Wikipedia is: on an unnamed Earth-like supercontinent planet, strange monsters and supervillains have been mysteriously appearing and causing disasters. To combat them, the world's superheroes have risen to fight. Saitama is one such superhero, hailing from the metropolis of Z City and easily defeating monsters and villains with a single punch. However, he has become bored with this power and only gets truly excited when fighting strong opponents that can challenge him. Over the course of the series, Saitama encounters various superheroes, supervillains, and monsters. He gains a disciple in the form of the cyborg Genos, and eventually joins the Hero Association in order to gain official recognition. Now, you guys know how I do this grading system. There are 10 categories. Each category has a potential to earn a maximum of 10 points, which will all add together to be a total out of 100 for the show's grade. And keep in mind that 5 is average, and then each category loses or gains points based on the things I discuss. So remember, 5 is average. Number 1, plot and story. I like the idea of having a league of competing superheroes, always facing new and powerful monsters and rising to the challenge. The idea of heroes being essentially graded and ranked up based on their performance in the field makes for an interesting plot device, especially when these ranks are much more meaningful to a character who doesn't really have to worry about proving anything. But seeing as he always goes uncredited and ultimately unappreciated, it just drives the comedy behind Saitama and the Heroes Association. There aren't really any big scary villains that are an overarching threat to our hero. A lot of the story is just him being way too powerful of a character who is looking for a decent fight and never getting it. Not so engrossing on a drama standpoint, but still super fun to watch and appreciate for its simplicity, although there is the underlying mystery of just how he got this powerful. I give it such a high score because I feel the show is unique and, although lacks an overall arc, keeps you interested. I give it an 8 out of 10. Number 2, characters. This show has such a wide range of characters, from the cyborg sidekick Genos to Moomin Rider or Puri Puri Prisoner, characters who defy monsters larger than Godzilla to those who simply get a balloon unstuck from a tree. The cast is incredibly diverse and enjoyable between the heroes and villains, and you don't feel like any hero is made to just be sitting in the background. You feel like they do have a story, and they could even have an animated adventure of their own. The show, however, mainly focuses on the heroes, while the villains are mostly monsters who appear and die in the same episode, save for 1 or 2 villains. That being said, the characters we watch in the majority of the time are funny, relatable, and quirky. No matter what they're doing, even something as mundane as Saitama trying to kill that mosquito, you are invested because the characters themselves draw you in with their style, presence, and dedication. I give the characters in the show another 8 out of 10. Number 3, art and animation. It seems like I'm always saying this about anime I review, but One Punch Man is beautiful. The art style ranges from amazingly simple to outstandingly detailed. The lines, colors, backgrounds, and expressions are expertly done. Each scene is inspiring, drawn with love, and makes you want to pause the show to examine the cityscape, shadows, and pouring rain. Not to mention just the design of some of the monsters, it's just plain awesome. I give the art animation, you ready? A solid 10 out of 10. Number 4, voice acting. I watched this show on Netflix with the Japanese dub, so I can't speak for the English voice actors, and like always, the Japanese cast nails their characters. I can't think of anyone who was wrongly voiced or even got too annoying. Even Tsumaki, who somewhat reminded me of Nonon from Kill la Kill, in the way that she's a bit eccentric and whiny and kind of bratty. The difference is when Nonon was whining, her voice was childish, shrill, and annoying, and that really isn't the case here. It's not too bad. I give voice acting a 7 out of 10. Number 5, soundtrack. This is usually my starting point for this category, but I have to mention the opening AMV. There are a few anime that get me pumped for the show each time. Don't get me wrong, I get excited for an episode when I see the opening, but One Punch Man really gets your blood pumping. I would watch this show while walking on the treadmill, and every time the opening started, I would crank the treadmill up to run, and I would run along with the intro because it just gets you wanting to move. It just drives home that headbanger, crowd metal, even a little bit of like sort of Viking feel to it. it gives you the goosebumps, and the rest of the music in the show just matches that pace and is always appropriate for the scene that it's featured in, even more sullen moments. I give the soundtrack an 8 out of 10. Number 6, character style. If we're talking about Saitama alone, well, this score would be extremely low. His outfit and appearance are extremely bland, but that's the point. Most of the heroes and villains we watch in anime are decked out in badass gear and are rocking crazy hairdos, makeup, distinguishing features, horns, tails, whatever. But Saitama is bald, has the plain face, and is honestly your everyday average how to draw anime template. But that's the point. He is the strongest of all, but he is just a simple dude. As for the rest of the characters, their style makes up for his. Nearly every character is really unique in their own way, and you can immediately determine what kind of person or monster they are based on appearance. Even though Saitama's bland, he only loses 1 point in this category because everyone else is so personalized. I give it a 9 out of 10. And honestly, a little side note, I think some of the monsters even feel representative of a more grungy One Piece, monsters, especially like the fish dude. I don't remember his name, forgive me. Number 7, emotional impact. When you watch this show, it becomes pretty clear that it isn't one that'll tug at your heartstrings. Some characters die, others get severely injured, but at the end of the day, the show is just fun. Constant action and destruction with some funny and slower moments between. Plenty of awe moments as you see the wake of annihilation when Saitama punches a fucking mountain into pieces. I apologize for the curse, but it's amazing to see. There isn't a whole lot to drive heavy emotion out of you here, which in this case is not a bad thing. If they had some super heavy emotion, it would honestly distract from what the show was set up to be. Not to say that it's completely absent, or that it should be, it's just that in the show it doesn't feel necessary. Even still, due to the lack of emotional impact in the show and not really missing it, I'm going to score it close to the middle, only gaining a point for honestly Genos and his plotline, in my opinion. I give it a 6 out of 10. Number 8, distractions. Now guys, keep in mind for this category, by distractions I mean pointless fan service characters, and more distractions in the show will lower the score. Most anime like to boast a female sidekick, enemy, mentor, or friend that is there for one reason and one reason only: boobies and ass shots. There are camera angles that are only there to show off the character, and most of the time they don't even contribute much to the overall plot. One Punch Man doesn't really have that. The first character that comes to mind, and honestly one of the only ones, is Mosquito Girl. But she is a simple one-off antagonist that isn't one of the main characters. I'm happy to say that fan service here is low, and if any, forgetful. I give it a 9 out of 10. Number 9, sympathy to the characters. Do you feel bad for the main cast? Do you sympathize with their struggles and goals? Well, yes and no. With Saitama, you know he is the strongest out there. He can do the job, he gets it done with extreme efficiency, but he is always getting the shaft. Never claiming credit or having someone else steal it or having the public call you a faker. You do feel bad for him, but at the same time, you see just how little this stuff affects him and how little the fame overall matters. He does want the recognition, but that comes second or even third to his primary goals. There are times when he stresses over it, but in the end, he just wants to fight someone who can take more than one punch. There are a few other side characters who make appearances that you feel sorry for, but to me they feel like camera cutaway and side plots that didn't really matter much, such as Moomin Rider. He seems like he's always there. Seeing as it's hard to get fully invested in the main character's struggles because he only truly cares about fighting, there will only be a few points gained, which will leave it at a 6 out of 10. Here we go guys, we're at the final score point. This is a personal plus or minus for number 10. Above all else, I have to give points to perhaps my favorite thing in the show, which is Saitama getting wailed on by his opponents and having zero effect on him. It is always funny when the enemy slams him into the pavement with literally only his head sticking out of the ground, and they just start talking trash as he obliviously stares him in the faces, not even listening to him. In the middle of their petty threats, Saitama literally just walks out of the concrete, though it were a pile of dry leaves. Nothing phases him. Every single attack is ineffective and comedic. Then, he annihilates them with a single punch, sending their meaty, bloody bits flying through the air. It's always fun to watch, it's always entertaining, and the approach is just so well done. I give that a solid 9 out of 10 for a personal plus or minus. Guys, here we are at the final score for One Punch Man. I have to say, I do highly recommend this show, and you can tell because the score is an 80 out of 100, which is one of the highest I've done here. Now keep in mind, again, remember, 5 is average. If this was a plain average show, it would be a 50 out of 100, which wouldn't mean bad or good. 5 is in the middle, so an 80 out of 100 is 30 positive points towards the show, which I think is pretty good. So guys, I would highly recommend you go watch it on Netflix. Get yourself ready because it's definitely a wild ride. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and check out my other anime reviews. Thank you guys so much for watching, and subscribe for more. I'll see you in the next one. Later.